Welcome to Vega Bomber Land. This is your boy Vega Bomber, and it's time to talk movies. So the latest movie I've seen is actually a movie that was released in 2020, but then COVID happened and then they ended up shutting down theaters, so it had a very short run. The movie I'm referring to is a movie called Let Him Go. Now, this is a drama thriller starring Diane Lane and, of course, Kevin Costner, Ma and Pa Kent here, and then Leslie Manville and Jeffrey Donovan. And so this film is directed by Thomas Bezucha, and he also not only directed this, but he also wrote it and produced it. So that's pretty interesting. The film runs about an hour and 54 minutes, so I can appreciate that it attempted to stay under 2 hours, and it did. So what is Let Him Go about? Let Him Go is about this elderly couple, Diane Lane and Kevin Costner, who, he's at the retirement stage. He's no longer a police officer. He's got a ranch in Montana, and his wife is a horse whisperer. She's someone who can break horses. She has this great innate ability to sense and feel horses. It's just great. And so they live there on this ranch with their son, who's married, and they have a newborn. And so the film starts with that. Now, immediately what you get is this sense of something's off, but we're not quite sure what it is. And that I will credit to the film being a film that shows and not just tells through exposition. So just from what it shows, you see there is a little bit of tension between grandma and mama over how they take care of the baby. And then at that same window where they're choosing to wash the baby, you look out the window and what do you see? A horse with a saddle walking around with no rider on it. What a great way to say, here's something horrible has happened. You do it this way rather than just showing the actual event itself. And this movie, Let Him Go, does a lot of this. So I love Thomas Bezucha's idea of how he's writing this and how he's telling a story. Now, this story starts off as maybe a family drama, because what happens is that the son is thrown from the horse, dies. And then what happens is that a few years later, the mom that's left behind, that's a widow now, decides to get remarried, but she remarries somebody who is of a different family and of a different thought and a different belief in a lot of different things. And even at the wedding, we get a sense just by when the preacher says, "You may now kiss your bride." Again, they didn't tell you there's something wrong with this family. They showed you by the way that awkward kiss went off. And so this movie might start off as a slow burn at first, but it's building to something. And then at some point it does this nice tonal shift that goes from family drama to pretty much a thriller and pretty much heavy violence in terms of like horror violence in a sense. It gets horrific in some place when you meet this other family that this lady now, the widow, has married into. And the reason why it impacts Diane Lane and Kevin Costner so much is, well, their son's gone. And all they have left of his legacy is that grandson. So they care where this grandson's going with their daughter-in-law, or former daughter-in-law now, since her husband's deceased and that was their son. So here they are going from their ranch in Montana to North Dakota to try to figure out who this family is that their daughter-in-law is married into, mainly because they want to keep tabs and track of their grandson Jimmy, because, well, he's a Blanchard, so he should, or a Blackledge, so he needs to be treated as such. And plus, Mama, Diane Lane, misses her son, and what she has left of her son now is his seed, which is her seed, which is the grandson. Now, this film, what do I love about this film? Well, number one, storytelling is great, and I love the acting. That's the second thing. The third thing is the characterizations that go on, and the fourth thing I like about this is the tonal shift, going from depressing to a degree, just people kind of settling into their later years of their life while trying to raise a son who's raising a son, and keeping the family unit tight, to all of a sudden the family unit being ripped apart. And Diane Lane not being able to, as the movie's titled, Let Him Go. So this film starts with that. I love the suspension. I love the tenseness. This movie doesn't do things that you can see coming, which is refreshing because we don't usually get to see that. And then once it ramps up to that fever pitch, it stays on it for about 25, 30 minutes, and you're in terror. You feel how psychotic this Weboy family is. And Leslie Mann, let me give her props too. Leslie Manville plays a great foil to Diane Lane. See, they're both moms who had boys who left, and they both love to cook, right? Because you'll see why in this film. But the difference is one is dangerously controlling and manipulative and is super dark and is willing to do anything by any means necessary, which is Leslie Manville's character. And then you see Diane Lane, who is charming, likes to bake and cook too, but she's willing to fight for a different reason. She's willing to fight to make sure that her daughter-in-law and her grandson are in a situation that's safe for them, that they're not with a dangerous man who has casual anger problems that are casual to him, but anyone else is pretty poignant and disturbing to watch. And Leslie Manville's character says, that's my son though, and I'm going to protect him because I'm just the same way. And so this thing turns and gets to a place where you're just like, I'm unnerved here. And this is good for a film. When a film can get you unnerved and get you to invest in it to where now you have to see how this finishes, then that's a good film. I would say the only negative to this film would be that they didn't spend a lot of time on tertiary characters and some characters that do show up in the film. But all in all, I don't think that's enough to stop this film from shining bright, and it does. So if you want to see a film that's not like a super blockbuster and all of that, that actually has some really poignant moments in it that have really great acting and where everything's not just spoon-fed to you, you have to actually pay attention and watch. And the actors are able to sell it with just their movements and their facial expressions and just the scene without over-explaining what's going on, then Let Him Go is that. Because Let Him Go lets go of the modern day filmmaking that says everything needs to be spelled out, everything needs to be jump cut into everything. This one is a nice, rewarding slow burn that when it pitches up, it picks up in its pitch, it carries you with it, and you're just along for the ride and you want to be there. So anyway, you can tell I love this movie. If you haven't had a chance, this movie today is not in the theaters. It is on HBO Max. I would tell you to go ahead, put that in your docket of things to do this weekend and watch Let Him Go. I think you'll be glad you did. This is Weboy Vega Bomber, and I'm out.